It's another edition of Checking In with Hein and Johnny, where the hosts bring in mystery topics that neither host knows anything about until the mics go hot and on the air. We are the show that keeps the host from talking about the weather and World War II 24 hours a day. Hey, Heine, man, what's on your mind?
Well, the gripe for Stella this morning is, could I get some dog food? Because it's 7 a.m. The neighbors, talking about gripes, the neighbors,
they love you?
They don't allow us to let our dogs out before 7 a.m.
Oh, man.
And they've called us and let us know such.
That's terrible. They don't like Stella at all.
They don't. Well, they don't. They don't. And Stella
Dog
is
haters.
a very small dog with a really huge voice. And so what she likes to do is go out, and if there's a squirrel or other rodent in our yard, she'll bark at it, and it's loud. And our yard's big enough that she can go to the back of the yard, and I can't even hear it.
But the
neighbors can.
They love
and
you.
They're very polite and nice because everyone's afraid to get really jacked up about complaints.
Yeah.
Because, you might go postal on them or whatever that is.
Well, I know, was it Stella, when we visited the palatial Morrison estate, was it Stella that ran down the street and we had to go chase after her in the snow?
Did we get her?
Well, that night we got her, but I don't know. I don't know if you're implying that other nights the dog catcher called you and you had to get her out of the pound.
There's no Paul Blart dog catcher that can ever catch my dog. Here's the Duke. He's ready for breakfast, too.
Yeah.
You say good morning, Duke. Where are you, buddy?
Oh, Duke's a sweetie.
He is a sweetie.
We got to see Duke's ears, so give us a real view. You're going to have to, there's Duke.
Can you really, let us have it? He's like, can you get us some food, please?
Yeah, we're
Stella,
starving.
you're going to say hi? You're on TV.
Notice how Stella knew she should be nervous.
She's a little more camera shy.
Yeah, she got nervous right then.
Unless you're a rodent, and then she's not shy at all.
She's not shy, yeah.
So, let's see if we're working around here.
So today's gripe. So today's
I don't want to just
the neighbors.
Run on.
No, it's the neighbors. The neighbors are mean to the dogs, and they're not polite and kind.
They're actually very civil, and we've come to an agreement of 7
a.m. Yeah,
7 a.m. And Chris says, well, the neighbors can't dictate when our dogs go out. I said, yes, they can.
Our fascist neighbors. Our fascist neighbors.
They don't
get this side.
Ordinances and things that...
Well, is there actually an ordinance about... is there?
There's all that stuff about making a lot of noise before 8 a.m. I think they could say, you keep that dog until 8, and then we'd all lose our jobs because we couldn't get to work on time.
Yeah. Well, that is definitely today's gripe, I'll tell you. Because we don't like snooty neighbors that don't like Stella and Duke.
Yeah, I could go on 4 hours. You think you need some content? Dog talk.
I need. People need the content. People need the content
in your life.
I will tell you my today's gripe is that, well, I think that I do not appreciate people who are super angry like your neighbors. I do not appreciate them at all when they should just leave Stella and Duke alone. That's definitely mine. I find that mean people they're not cool. I don't like them. So if you were not the industry giant, the absolute CEO of the universe, what were you going to be when you're like, oh, look at Stella and Duke? Do you cook chicken for them?
I do anything for these dogs.
Oh, bless their hearts. That's lucky. You are one of those people that buy chicken for them and then cook it specifically for them?
This is Skippy, brother.
Oh.
You ever see, Chris Peterson eating it on TV?
No, tell me about
Remember
Chris
that?
Peterson.
On Letterman.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Peterson is my favorite comic because he looks like you.
Which is a huge compliment. Baggy, delicious eyes, and skin skin conditions. No one tells you when you are younger that you are going to have weird lumps. We're watching the Dr. Pimple Popper for 30 years. What you don't realize is you are going to be that. And nobody tells you that you're going to be that. And it's a bit of a surprise. When they talk some lady talked about oozing, she said what oozed out of Dr. Pimple Poppers when they got it out, oozing rotting garbage. And I'm like, oh, that's so disgusting. You're disgusting. You're such a horrible human. And then that was me,
Well,
a year later.
I've got to admit that I love the show. Dr. Pimple Popper's kind of hot. And so it's kind of like a sweet and sour show. You're watching Dr. Pimple Popper go at her business, and then there's her. And so, it's one of those sweet and
Yin
hot.
and yang. We like
Or not sweet and hot, but
This
and
is
now, I don't think you should turn the show into, where we just complain about our health problems.
Well,
although you can do it, it's a different demographic that listens to it.
Dr. Pimple, that book does our first transition. Our first transition of the show is to eye candy, because Dr. Heine has a delightful eye candy catch to Dr. Pimple Popper, which is a great thing for our next segment, which is eye candy, the things we've been watching. So, if you haven't checked out Night Manager and you haven't, in the night theme, checked out The Night Agent now on Netflix, you are missing out.
The Night, what?
The Night Agent, sleuthy, exciting. There's a lot of shows that now are a tiny bit like the Bourne series. They've got some action. They've got, like you were saying, they always have some eye candy in them. And then they have some cool locales. That's the Night Agent. That's the Night Manager. And one that's, if you haven't seen it, was very, very hot during the summer and fall was The Union with Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg. So these two, one thing, do you remember Halle Berry in Catwoman, Heine? Do you remember that movie it was the first Batman? Do you remember that? Did you see Batman where that first section back in, I think it's the 80s?
I do believe, if I remember right, that was during my
huge flop.
son's Batman phase.
Oh, nice. That would be it.
So watching that watching that movie helped me sort out, the approaches from mail-in order brides that actually were not Halle Berry and just used her photo.
That's mail. Who knew who knew we would go to the mail order brides Halle Berry reference? But that's us.
It's only funny because it's true.
That's right. It happens.
My buddy's going, this is my girlfriend from sub-Saharan Africa. And I said, man,
that's Halle Berry.
She looks a lot like Halle Berry.
Okay. So on this point, in this show, The Union's really popular, Halle Berry looks exactly like she did in the 80s and 90s. I'll tell you, Hein, it's shocking. She has a portrait of Dorian Gray in her attic because she has not aged like a week, and you and I look like we're melting. I mean, the difference is astounding, the difference. Anyway, she's granted, she was also in John Wick, and she was astounding. These stunts she's doing, she's our age. And I'm flabbergasted that she is.
She's not our age.
What?
She's like 10 years younger.
Really? All right. Tell us
How
in the
old
comments.
is she?
Tell us in the comments how old Halle Berry. I would venture that she is somewhere around our age. We're both 40, of course. So that is my point, that holy smokes, Halle Berry is still incredibly youthful. So we'll have our comments later that will tell us.
I'll be looking forward to the show just for that.
Absolutely. In fact, her hair is a point of plot. I mean, there's a plot line because of her hair. And Mark Wahlberg he plays the same person in every movie. But it's
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, he's Mark Wahlberg, and he is the exact same person in everything he's ever been in. The show is like The Night Agent and like The Night Manager. A lot of fun action and cool locations, so you will enjoy that. Now, one thing that we definitely don't want to miss out on is ear candy, stuff that we've been listening to. Tell me a little about the folks that we're going to shamelessly promote on the show. What shameless things are we going to plug? Is Hillary Smith the most incredible person you've ever met?
She is. And I've spent some time with her, and if there is someone who just loves to sing and belt it out, it is Hillary.
Nice.
And she pairs it up, with the Albuquerque Jazz Orchestra. She does a lot of work with them, and has some other bands she's been in. And Chris Drakup, he is an awesome guitarist who is from Albuquerque. And I could just sit and watch him. I don't go to a lot of big rock concerts because I don't want to be up there with my binoculars trying to see Taylor Swift down at the bottom of Wembley Stadium.
This Taylor in centimeter size.
Right. So if for the price of a plate of Brussels sprouts, I can get in and get up and close to somebody who's performing a bar or whatever venue it is.
Fantastic.
I love that. And Hillary, you can definitely hear her and get close to her in Albuquerque. And I have so many stories I could tell about Hillary. I don't know if you have time.
There will be ear candy moments. We'll get to them all. We literally will get to every one. The ear can. Now, one thing about the ear candy is we'll talk a little bit about what we're listening to. Hillary being one of them. The latest audiobook, Johnny Depp. What's been your recollection of Johnny Depp lately, Hein?
Well, let's see. There was some legal action. I haven't seen.
Yeah, her right. Right. We don't hear. He was in Hollywood Vampires with.
Was he recently?
Yeah.
Is this
Well,
recent?
no, not recently. But that just before Amber Heard's troubles with him, that's the only thing we've heard about because
My kids. He was doing a movie. I think it was The Lone Ranger. He was filming that in Albuquerque. And so my youngest son, who used to do a lot of little capers when they're out driving around in my cars with no permission, or supervision or permission. And they get the idea that one of his buddies says, "Hey, I know where Johnny Depp is living."
Nice.
So they hijacked into this gated community and drove up to his house and went up and rang the doorbell. And who answers the door? It's Johnny Depp. And he's kind of like, "Hi, guys. How can I help you?" And they kind of stood there and went, this is pretty cool. Johnny. And then they left, but he was very cordial to them and nice.
Didn't call the cops.
It's all cool, but
the movie was terrible, but that's a great Johnny Depp story.
But you don't want to talk about. Yeah, it's not my favorite Johnny Depp film.
No, it's the worst. I mean, he's fantastic. Well,
so I can only go back in history. I've got to check out what he's working on now. What's he doing?
Keith Richards roped him in to do his memoir, Life. So
it's a movie?
No,
Keith
wrote. What's weird about Keith's memoir called Life is that he
actually remembers very little of it.
No, that's what you think, right? I mean, that's what's so surprising. He roped Johnny Depp into narrating it. So Johnny Depp must have spent, 2 months of his life reading this book, which is fantastic. Johnny Depp does an incredible job of it. But the weird thing, Hein, is that how in the world did Keith remember anything at all? That's the surprise. If there's one surprising thing about the book Life by Keith Richards, is that he has intricate remembrances of all this stuff. Really surprising stuff. Of course, there's just tons of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But who knew he was like a huge Boy Scout? Loved the Boy Scouts. So like at 14... you were in Boy Scouts, I'm guessing.
I was. I made it all the way to second class Scout.
Oh, I think
I qualified for my first class award, but never really actually received it.
That was me. They told me, the next were they pack meetings? Is that what they were called? Pack meetings? They said, at the next pack meeting you get first class. I did not. I wasn't a joiner, so no, I never got the first class. But I think they told me verbally that you got it. But I'm the same way. I kind of was in it, sort of was in it, but I was not a big club guy, so I didn't do it. But he was into it. He was totally
was he an
into
eagle?
It. No. Well, they kicked him out eventually.
Kicked him out.
One of the great stories is he totally loved it. Loved it. 2 years.
Duty.
Loved it. Doing the knots. Got tons of merit badges. He's quite enthusiastic. It's amazing how enthusiastic he is about his merit badges. Then he moves up, so he's a little bit, he's one of the older scouts. and then someone joins the scouts that's not pleasant, and he yells at him and screams at him, and then they kick him out of the Boy Scouts. But his memories are very vivid and amazingly accurate about his. How would he, knowing what we know about him, it's shocking that he can remember anything, and he goes seriously in depth. So it's interesting. You know, also, this will be right up your alley. I don't, yours and my life, we never really did pre and post-war experiences. Keith was in the pocket for that. So he was on rations when he was young. So, like, they didn't have candy. And so
when was it? Probably right after the war. You know, he was probably a baby during the war, born during the war.
So his recollections, his first recollections are pretty interesting, that he says, you know, you couldn't get candy. So it was a big thing when you no longer had the rations ticket and you could get candy. Stella found a squirrel. I like that.
No, it's neighbors walking past the front of the house. They're probably
sons of. Well, what are they thinking? This is Stella's area.
Maybe they'll go outside.
Nah, that's okay. We don't mind. We're not Duke and Stella haters here. We have no anger about it. That was a full-throated one. That one was bold. Don't even worry about it. Let's go see how they look.
So we just, that's, how I'm a World War II.
You are
curious.
You are a nerd, a World War II nerd.
This is true.
And that is part of the fun the strange fun of his memoir, is that he has those things, the bombed out, areas, the bombed out neighborhoods, and in a million years, you would never imagine that this was part of his life, and it definitely is. It for sure is. It dominates the first chapter, is his post-war recollections, and so that's a lot of fun. And one thing you do learn a lot about: probable cause. Probable cause in Arkansas definitely is part of Keith's life, because they keep him out of jail. I'll have to tell you one section of it that you would love. They're in Arkansas and they get arrested, and they have a car full of drugs, medical grade cocaine. It's in the doors of the car. It's under the seats. And they get pulled over by the Arkansas police. And back then, the police, they still had probable cause. So they arrest him, take him to the police station, but they don't search the car. So it's packed with drugs. This brand new yellow car, packed with drugs. But they don't get the drugs. So Keith puts some of the drugs that are out into the Kleenex box, puts it under the seat, and they don't get to those drugs. They don't see the drugs. So they're locked up all day. They're in the jail all day. But they don't even search them. The Arkansas police don't search Keith and the rest of the guys he's with. So they literally just leave them in the cells. They can walk out of the cell and go to the bathroom. So they flush all the drugs down the toilet. While they're in custody, they're able to get rid of all the drugs. The judge comes in drunk as a skunk from golf and gets up, and he's the one making the ruling. So he literally rules, and of course their attorney says, "You're drunk. You can't make this. You can't make this call. You can't. It's impossible for you to make this call. You don't have any drugs. They aren't his. The only drugs that you find," and they get away with it. They literally are this close in Arkansas to going to jail and not coming out for 2 years. Felony possession, because they were such a large quantity. And Keith didn't know who got the drugs in the car. The car is probably somewhere full of drugs in the side panels. And he love it. It's crazy that probable cause keeps him from getting out,
Someday on an episode of Roadkill, they're going to find that car.
And somebody's going to open it up and
restore it and go, "Ooh,
hello,
too bad
ladies."
This stuff's so old.
We didn't. It's like it never happens to me, but people find like money stashed in the drywall of their house that they buy, or there's a dead body in there. Nothing ever cool.
$40,000 in the gas tank of the Jetta you bought at the government police auction.
Crazy. That's so.
That was a real one in Auto Week.
That's not me. I'm probably never curious enough to look in the gas tank of my Jetta.
Well, the lady found it because every time she filled up, she could only put in like 5 gallons.
And a drug runner had put together the thing. I love it.
The people down at the shop didn't say, "Hey, we found your problem. It was a leaky fuel filter. You're good to go now."
They had a $40,000 tip, but
right, and the DEA tried to get the money back, but since they'd sold the car to her, I think the Supreme Court said, "No, you got to keep the money." So she got to keep the $40,000, and her mechanic said, "Hey, we found $40,000 in your gas tank."
Give us a little something. He would, in this day and age, the mechanic would start a podcast with that, like two idiots like us. Take that to the bank. Well, my friend, what other things have we not? Oh, speaking of ear candy, tell us about Delightful Connor Morrison on Facebook. Why do we want to shamelessly plug Dear Connor?
Just because of the amount of talent that is out there that people need to see, especially in the Bay Area, where he's doing his gigs around at Oakland United. He used to do that, play that place a lot. I don't know where he's playing right now, but he'll have some shows coming up, and he does a fantastic job. Keyboards, and he can play about anything, and he writes his own music.
Love it. So he's like Mr. Prodigy. So he's a prodigy because you guys bought a piano. Tell me this story. You get a piano. It's sitting in the hallway. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, Chris was in community theater. And at the end of community theater, this play, they had used a spinet piano in it, and they needed a place to put it. And we had a big empty room in our house. So I said, well, just bring it over to the house. We can store it in there. And so every time he would walk past it, he would play the Jaws theme.
Nice.
And then he'd sit and bang on it and walk by it. And do you want to take some lessons? No, we don't want to take lessons.
Yeah.
And then I said, Chris finally, mentioned, hey, do you want to, there's the guy in the play. He's a piano teacher. He can show you how to play. And, well, okay, maybe I'll take some lessons. And from there, I went to the music store and bought a bunch of rock and roll books and threw them at him. And the teacher didn't want to teach him to play rock and roll.
Right, they never do.
They never do. But it's all that's interesting, it's just scales and stuff.
Yeah.
But he took off from there to where we would wake up in the middle of the night at 1:30 in the morning. The kid's a night owl, and he's banging away with his foot, waking up the entire house, and he's in there playing with his headphones on. And so he's just that's his thing.
That's awesome.
He doesn't want to turn a wrench at all.
Yeah. So that's what if you weren't a titan of industry, you wouldn't be a musician. You would be a gearhead. You would do nothing but restore cars.
Unfortunately, probably yes, but I don't know. Who knows? But
Well, we're proud of Connor. So
right, that's what I mean. I look at like Keith Richards' life and say, yeah, in 1966 he had a very nice E-type coupe.
that's the most interesting thing. Well, it's
No, I went
interesting.
through an entire period of my life where I was trying to look like Keith Richards. I thought he was the coolest
perm.
looking guy.
The
Nobody
perm.
else.
I remember, like, I think junior year or sophomore year, you had the sweet perm that had the look of Keith at that time.
I went into the hairdresser with a picture and said, I want my hair to look like this. And I held up a picture of Keith Richards. And he said, what's this? The How Not to Have Your Hair Look book?
Well done on that, by the way.
Maybe this isn't my guy. But I got the perm. I came out looking a little bit more like Gino Vanelli.
Yeah, but he was good too. What's wrong with Gino? I mean, we're not going to throw shade on.
Where is he now?
Wow.
He might not be alive.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I will tell you, Connor's experience and Keith's from his memoir is the same. He had no interest in Mozart and Bach and all that, and that's what all the teachers want to teach you. So when you go, same thing for me. I mean, that's all I did for 7-8 years is scales and that. So eventually, the only thing that's fun is rock and roll. So you kind of do it yourself. That and Keith was the same way. His dad got an old acoustic guitar, and he talks about the allure of this old acoustic guitar, and just sucks you in. And that's how it started when he was just a weird.
Yeah, Connor's a big Billy Joel fan, so he just wants to play Billy
all day and all night.
Yeah, and so I would give him little assignments that he would take, like learn how to play scenes from an Italian restaurant.
Fantastic.
And he can knock it out. He can just sit down, play it, and sing it, and it makes me cry every time.
Yeah, he's I'll tell you, Billy Joel is this incredible person to be, the mentor ideal, because speaking of eye candy, he has a special for that big last event at Madison Square Garden. It's really nice. I mean, fantastic, because he had the historic run there of basically the house band of the Garden. So really great special if you love music specials and you were, born in the 60s and 70s and 80s. He is the man. All those string of hits. Now he just doesn't write any new material because people don't buy it. You just don't make any money, and you can't make a dime from purchased music.
It's a different world.
Yeah. All the bands that we listened to all those years made money from the sale. Now it's all live. You have to be on the road to make any cash, because streaming's so cheap. It pays the artist so little. So, well, we have come to the end of our delightful time together, Heine man.
And it was delightful.
It was. Thank you, everybody, for being so supportive and watching us. We will, up to now, we have gone through Elton John's memoirs, Bob Dylan's memoirs. We will have more to come. And the gimmick of our show is Heine brings in his gripes and I bring in my gripes, but we don't talk about it beforehand. And it's a surprise to all of us. One thing that you've gotten to know by watching these is the reason it's a surprise gimmick that we don't know is because we don't do any work on the show. We don't want to prepare. But that was obvious to everybody watching this. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next week. See you, Hein.
Peace out, John.
Thanks for listening to Checking In with Hein and Johnny. You can follow all things Hein and Johnny by subscribing to Checking In with Hein and Johnny anywhere you listen to podcasts. Checking In with Hein and Johnny is sponsored by Conveyors and Equipment. They supply, design, and service all types of conveyors, belting, and material handling equipment since 1972. With 3 locations to serve you, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, and El Paso. Find them on the web at conveyequip.com. That's CONVEYEQUIP.com.